She said no, he didn't listen. She tried to pull away, but the crowd just kept walking. No one saw her, except for one man standing stone still in red and black. A royal guard, a soldier sworn to silence. And when he broke formation that day, he didn't just save a little girl. He reminded the world what real courage looks like. Hey there, if you believe duty, decency, and doing the right thing still matter in today's world, hit that like button right now. Leave us a comment. Tell us where you're watching from, and if this moment moved you, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. We share true stories like this every week that restore your faith in humanity. Now stick around until the end, because the moment this soldier locks eyes with a lost child in danger, it will send chills down your spine. And what happens after that? It silences an entire crowd outside Buckingham Palace. Today's story takes us to a summer morning in London. The flags are flying. The palace gleams under a soft blue sky. Tourists line up shoulder to shoulder, their phones raised, eager to capture the legendary changing of the guard. But behind the camera flashes and ceremony, something is about to go very, very wrong. A family from Austin, Texas is visiting for the first time. Their 7-year-old daughter, Emily, breaks away from the crowd for a better look, just a few steps ahead, and in the space of 6 seconds, she disappears. What happens next? It's not just about tradition. It's about instinct, discipline, and a single tear that changed everything. The morning sun warmed the stone sidewalks of Westminster like a postcard brought to life. Red double-decker buses hummed through traffic. A light breeze tugged gently at flags atop Buckingham Palace. For the Carter family, this wasn't just another summer day. It was the first stamp in their passports, the first page of a new memory. Christine Carter adjusted a strap on her camera bag, looking every bit like the sentimental history teacher she was. Her husband, Michael, tall, broad-shouldered, former Navy, wore a Texas Longhorns cap and sunglasses, trying his best to navigate the unfamiliar streets with quiet confidence. And then there was Emily, 7 years old, hair in pigtails, red hoodie, glitter shoes that lit up when she walked. She clutched her little American flag in one hand and a chocolate-stained travel guide in the other. Her eyes sparkled with that mix of curiosity and wonder only a child sees clearly. They'd landed at Heathrow just a day earlier, bleary-eyed and amazed by the accents, the taxis, the centuries, old buildings. Emily had giggled at the British coins. Why is the 10 pence bigger than the 50? And insisted on calling the hotel elevator a lift, just like the desk clerk had said. Now here they stood, shoulder to shoulder, with hundreds of other tourists gathered for the changing of the guard. Michael checked his phone. 10 more minutes, he said, then glanced at his daughter. You excited, Em? She nodded, eyes fixed on the massive gates ahead. Do the horses really wear hats too? Christine laughed. No, baby, just the soldiers. And they're called bear skins. That tall black hat weighs more than your backpack. Emily's eyes went wide. That's crazy. They found a spot along the ceremonial barrier, about 15 feet from the palace gate. Not the best view, but not the worst either. People were packed in tight, phones up, elbows bumping. A man from Wisconsin was explaining the royal family tree to his wife beside them. A woman from Tokyo kept apologizing as she leaned forward to get a better angle. Amid the chaos, Emily tugged at her mom's sleeve. Can I go just a little bit ahead? I promise I won't go far. Christine hesitated. Michael looked at the crowd. He could still see the first few rows of tourists clearly. It didn't seem risky. Just a few feet closer. What could happen? Okay, Christine said, but stay right where we can see you. Emily nodded, already moving toward a break in the crowd. It was only 5, maybe 6 steps. The kind of distance you don't even think twice about. She found a clear spot between a family from Dublin and a young couple filming with a selfie stick. She had a better view now. She smiled. The band would be here soon. Behind her, Christine raised the camera and clicked off a few shots. "Turn around, Em," she called. "Let me get one with the palace behind you." Emily spun, flashing a bright grin. Click. That photo would later be used by every major news outlet in the country. Michael checked his phone again. "They're starting at Wellington Barracks. Should be here any second." And that's when it happened. The drums surged louder as the lead guards approached the palace gates. The crowd shifted again, leaning left for a better view. A man bumped forward, brushing past Emily. Another moved sideways, blocking the spot where she had just stood. Christine looked up and didn't see the red hoodie. Michael blinked, leaned forward. "No sparkle shoes? Emily?" Christine called, her voice rising. But the band had hit full volume now. A wall of sound, brass and snare drums and boots on stone. Michael turned to his wife. "She's not there." "What, her?" Christine's voice cracked. She stepped forward, trying to see around the shoulders and backpacks. "Emily." No answer. Just the music. Just the rhythm of the ceremony. The crowd was too thick, the movement too chaotic. Everyone focused on the guards. No one noticed the little girl standing alone, just a few yards deeper into the crowd, until she wasn't standing anymore. She had turned around and found nothing familiar. No dad in the Longhorns cap, no mom with the camera, no familiar voices. Just hundreds of people, and strangers' faces. For a moment she stood perfectly still. Just like the soldiers, Emily spun around, expecting to see her parents exactly where she'd left them. Her mom holding the camera, her dad leaning against the railing. But they weren't there. The crowd had shifted, grown louder, taller. The surge of people pressing forward had created a wall of unfamiliar bodies. She turned again, her eyes darting left, then right. Nothing. She squeezed the little flag in her hand, suddenly aware that her fingers were shaking. The sounds around her, once joyful, almost musical, now felt overwhelming. The brass instruments clashed in her ears. Tourists shouted in dozens of different accents. Camera shutters snapped like pops of static. And none of it sounded like home. "Mom?" she called softly. No one turned. Still nothing. A tall man stepped in front of her, laughing with someone on his phone. A woman with a backpack nearly knocked into her, muttered, "Watch it," and moved on without a second glance. Emily took a step back, heart beginning to race, then another. The ceremonial music swelled again as the guards came to a halt near the gate. But Emily didn't care anymore. The magic had vanished. The sparkling uniforms, the rhythmic steps, the towering black hats. None of it mattered now, because she was alone. She hugged herself, tiny arms wrapped tight across her chest. Her eyes welled up, but she blinked the tears back hard. Her mom had always told her, "Don't cry in public. Stay calm. Use your words. Find a safe adult." But who here looked safe? Don't even look down. She began weaving her way through the crowd, dodging swinging purses, rolling camera bags, legs that never seemed to stop moving. She scanned each face, hoping desperately that one would suddenly be familiar. A red scarf, a longhorn's cap, her mother's gentle eyes, her father's strong shoulders. But all she saw were strangers. The palace gates loomed to her right now, massive and gleaming. She remembered they'd been on her left earlier. Had she gone too far? Or turned the wrong way? She tried retracing her steps, but everything looked the same. Wrought iron fencing, flower beds, and the blur of moving feet. The black poles were identical. The crowd, shifting like a tide, gave no clues. Emily sniffled, wiped her nose on her sleeve, and whispered to herself, "Don't cry, don't..." Don't cry, just find Mom. But that calm her mother always told her to hold on to, it was slipping now. Her breathing quickened, her lower lip trembled. She passed a family laughing in French, then a man filming with a drone controller. None of them even noticed the small, lost child in front of them. Her steps slowed. She stopped beside a stone pillar near the palace forecourt, where a gap in the crowd opened for just a moment. For the first time since the ceremony began, she could see clearly again. And in that clearing, she saw him, one of the royal guards. Unmoving, imposing, he stood with perfect posture, rifle angled, boots polished, eyes forward beneath the shadow of his bearskin cap. He didn't glance at the crowd, didn't react to the shouting. He was part of the scene like a statue, but he was real, and he was still. Somehow, that stillness calmed her. Emily took one small step toward the barrier. Her flag drooped in her hand. Then she heard it, a voice, low, gentle, and far too close. "There you are," it said softly. "You must be lost, sweetheart." Emily froze. A man crouched behind her, wearing a clean navy blazer, a neatly pressed shirt, and polished brown shoes. His smile was tight but practiced, the kind grown-ups wore when they wanted to seem nice. She didn't answer. He leaned in just a little more. "I saw you walking all by yourself," he said, "and figured you must have gotten separated from your folks. These crowds can be so confusing, can't they?" Emily stepped back, but he stepped forward. "I can help you find them," he added, glancing toward the gates. "Or maybe we can ask one of the guards, huh?" He offered a small laugh. Something in her gut twisted. He wasn't yelling, he wasn't scary, but something was off. Very off. He didn't look like a monster. That was the part that scared her the most. The man crouched to meet Emily's eye level, keeping his voice low, calm, almost too calm. His blazer didn't have a wrinkle. His shoes were polished like her dad's dress shoes back home. He even smelled like aftershave. To anyone passing by, he looked like a friendly uncle trying to help a lost child. But Emily wasn't fooled. Not entirely. "I can help you find your mommy and daddy," he said again, voice sugar-sweet. "No need to worry, sweetheart." She took a step back. He held up both hands like he was taming a spooked kitten. "It's okay," he said. "I'm not going to hurt you. I saw you standing here all alone. These crowds are tough on little ones. Tell you what, why don't we go find a policeman together, huh?" Emily stared at him, clutching her little flag tight now. Her mom had warned her about strangers. So had her teacher. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Still, her voice barely came out. "I'm not supposed to go with people I don't know." His smile didn't falter, but his eyes sharpened. Just a flicker, then it was gone. "Oh, but I'm not a stranger," he said quickly. "I'm a helper. You know what that is, right? Someone who does the right thing." He gestured down the walkway. "I think I saw an officer just a little ways down. Let's walk that way together, just for a minute." When Emily didn't move, he shifted tone. "I've got a chocolate bar in my bag. It's a big one. You look like you could use something sweet, huh?" She shook her head. He smiled again, but this time it didn't feel like a smile at all, more like a mask. "My daughter's your age," he added with a soft laugh. "Same wild hair. She's always getting lost in crowds, too." He reached out, just a gentle touch to her shoulder. Emily flinched. "Don't touch me," she said, louder than she meant to. A few people glanced over. Most looked away just as quickly, assuming it was nothing. The man's jaw clenched for a second, then relaxed again. "I'm trying to help you," he said quietly. "We don't want to make a scene, do we?" Then, faster than she expected, he grabbed her wrist. Not hard, not yet, but enough that she couldn't slip free. Her heart kicked into overdrive. Her tiny lungs pulled shallow, fast breaths. "Let go," she whispered. "No need to be rude," he said, now tightening his grip. "We're just going to take a little walk." He leaned in closer, so close she could feel his breath. If you scream, I'll tell them you're my niece. No one's going to believe a fussy little girl over a grown-up." Emily froze. Her body stiffened. Her feet wouldn't move. But her eyes darted to the side, toward the ceremonial path. And that's when she saw him again. The royal guard, still motionless, still silent. But his eyes, she could swear they were looking right at her. For most of the crowd, the royal guards were just a photo opportunity. Tall, stoic men in striking red coats and towering bearskin hats, unmoving, unblinking, as tradition demanded. They stood as symbols, not as men. Ornamental, like statues that breathed. But Corporal James Hargrove was no statue. He had stood his post outside Buckingham Palace for over an hour, bearing the weight of sun, ceremony, and silence. His boots were polished to regulation shine. His rifle was held at a perfect diagonal. His body still as stone, but his mind alert, watching everything. Unlike many of the younger guards who saw this as just another ceremonial assignment, Hargrove saw with different eyes. Combat had trained him that danger doesn't always arrive with shouting or weapons. Sometimes it's quieter, subtle. It creeps in with a smile and clean shoes. And he had seen something. It wasn't the girl's scream. There hadn't been one. It wasn't even the man's behavior, though that was starting to register. No, it was a look, a single fleeting flash of raw, unmistakable fear in a child's eyes. That was what broke the rhythm. He had watched her earlier, red hoodie, glitter shoes, small, flag in hand. She was smiling, curious. Then she was separated, then she was alone. Now her shoulders were tight, her movement stiff, her wrist twisted in the grasp of a man who kept glancing side to side, checking the crowd like a predator scanning for gaps. Then came the moment. A tear. It rolled down her cheek. Not fast, not theatrical, just slow, controlled, almost reluctant. But it was wrong. Something in Hargrove's gut twisted, the way it had once done in Helmand Province, just before the explosion that nearly took his leg. The ceremony still moved on around him. Tourists laughed, drums played, phones recorded. But he was already stepping forward in his mind. Protocol said no, guards don't move unless commanded or under threat. But his instincts screamed louder than any rulebook. He shifted his eyes toward the man. The grip was firmer now. The child tried to pull away. Her lips were tight, her feet dragged. His pulse quickened, but his expression stayed fixed, because Corporal Hargrove knew that a soldier doesn't always wait for orders. Sometimes he answers to something greater. His boots didn't creak. They cracked against the cobblestone as he took his first step forward. The sound was sharp, jarring, like a firework shot into silence. People nearby gasped. A woman actually dropped her phone. Gods don't move. But this one did. One step became two, then three. The man still hadn't noticed him. Haugrun's voice, when it came, was calm but thunderous. "Let the girl go." The words rang out like a rifle shot, clear, commanding, undeniable. The man turned sharply, startled, and for the first time, his mask of charm cracked. Emily's eyes widened. Hope had found her. Gods don't move. They don't speak. They don't intervene. But Corporal James Hargrove had already decided. Today the rules could break, but a child wouldn't. His steps echoed across the cobblestones, crisp and deliberate. Every inch of his posture remained textbook perfect, yet something unmistakable had changed. The tourists felt it. The ceremony didn't. But the mood had shifted. People nearby stepped back, instinctively making space. Phones lowered. Murmurs rose. The illusion of a living statue was gone. and in its place now stood a man on a mission. "Let the girl go," Hargrove said again, firmer now, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. The man holding Emily turned sharply, caught off guard by the sound and the sight of a guard advancing. He tightened his grip on the girl. She whimpered but didn't cry. She was frozen, breath shallow, eyes darting from Hargrove's boots to the stranger's hand, still clutching her wrist. "I was just helping her," the man stammered. "She's lost. I saw her wandering and thought—" Hargrove didn't wait for lies. In one fluid motion, he dropped his ceremonial rifle, pivoted off his back foot, and closed the gap in 12 strides. The man spun, trying to shield himself with the girl's small body. "Stay back. I said I was helping her." But Hargrove didn't blink. With the precision of a soldier who trained for moments far worse than this, he slammed into the man's chest, knocking him off balance. Emily tumbled sideways, landing safely against a nearby bench. They both hit the pavement, hard. In seconds, the man was face down, Hargrove's knee planted between his shoulder blades, his arms locked behind him. "Let me go, this is assault," the man protested. "Not way." Emily's voice rose, trembling, sharp and real. "Touched me, he tried to take me." And just like that, the crowd stopped watching a performance. They started witnessing a rescue. The stranger lay pinned against the pavement, his breath coming in shallow, angry bursts. His blazer was rumpled, his false calm replaced with cold fury. But Corporal James Hargrove didn't move. He kept his weight centered, one hand gripping the man's wrist, the other pressing into the base of his neck with just enough force to make a point. The crowd had shifted from confusion to realization. "That's not his daughter," someone muttered. "Hey, Mozart," she said. "He touched her," whispered another. "Call the police," a woman shouted, already dialing. Palace security was already on the move. 2 officers sprinting from the main gate, another radioing City of Westminster Police. Tourists gave the scene a wide berth, their phones now capturing something far more real than a ceremonial march. Parents held their children tighter. A few wiped away tears. Emily crouched nearby, knees scraped, her hands shaking in her lap. A palace officer knelt beside her, gently placing a blanket over her shoulders. "You're safe now, sweetheart," he said softly. "Me said he was helping me," she whispered. "He said he was nice." "But he wasn't." "You did the right thing," the officer replied. "And you said no. That's brave." The man beneath Hargrove spat toward the ground. "This is ridiculous. I didn't do anything." That's when one of the palace supervisors approached, holding a clipboard, his expression grim. He handed a paper to the arriving police sergeant. "We ran his ID," the supervisor said. "Name's Gavin Holt. Registered sex offender, out on parole." "Multiple priors," the sergeant added, scanning the sheet. "2 counts of attempted abduction, one in Birmingham just last month." A cold wave swept through the crowd. They weren't just witnessing a near miss. They had come terrifyingly close to something far worse. As Holt was lifted off the ground and placed in handcuffs, he turned his head. One final glance toward Emily, toward Hargrove. But this time, his face wasn't smug. It was pale, defeated. James Hargrove stood slowly, retrieving his rifle with steady hands. His uniform was scuffed, his sleeve torn, but his posture still perfect. The silence around him deepened, broken only by the soft click of handcuffs and distant sirens approaching. He didn't look toward the cameras. Fury only looked at Emily. Her eyes met his, still wide, still afraid, but no longer alone. And for the first time that day, she smiled. A voice broke through the chatter of the crowd, a mother's voice, thick with panic. "Emily." Christine Carter pushed past the growing circle of onlookers, her red scarf fluttering behind her. Michael followed, eyes scanning frantically, his baseball cap askew. Emily, where is she?" The crowd parted. Emily stood shakily, still wrapped in the emergency blanket, her glitter shoes scuffed, her small flag clutched tight in one hand. "Mummy!" she cried. Christine dropped to her knees just as Emily ran into her arms. They collided with the kind of embrace only a mother and daughter understand. Desperate, tearful, unbreakable. Michael dropped beside them, wrapping both in his arm. "We're looking everywhere," he said, voice cracking. "My God, we thought—" "I said he'd help me," Emily sobbed. "But he wasn't nice. He was bad, really bad." Christine couldn't speak. She just held her daughter tighter, rocking her gently like she had when Emily was just a baby. A few feet away, Corporal Hargrove stood at attention once more, silent and composed, but his jaw clenched slightly as he watched the reunion. Michael stood and walked toward him. "Was it you?" he asked, eyes glistening. "You're the one who saved her?" Hargrove gave a simple nod. "I intervened." Michael offered his hand. Hargrove hesitated for just a second. Royal Guards don't usually break formation, don't usually accept handshakes, but today wasn't a usual day. He took it. "You saved our little girl," Michael said. "You saved our whole world." "She did most of the work," Hargrove replied quietly. "She said no. She trusted her instincts. That's a testament to how you raised her." Christine walked over and touched Hargrove's arm. "We'll never forget this," she said. "Never." Later that evening, as the sun cast long golden shadows across the palace grounds, Hargrove sat on a wooden bench inside the inner courtyard. His shift had ended early. His uniform was still dusty from the takedown. He hadn't said much to anyone since the incident. Then a palace staffer approached, holding a small folded piece of paper. "Message for Corporal Hargrove," she said gently. He opened it. It was a child's drawing, scribbled in pink crayon. A tall man in a red uniform, holding hands with a little girl in a red hoodie. 3 words were written below. Wobbly, misspelled, but unmistakable. "You subbed me?" Hargrove smiled. It was small, but it was real. He folded the drawing carefully and tucked it into his jacket pocket. He didn't need a medal. He had this final message to the audience. Not all heroes wear capes. Some wear silence, discipline, and scarlet coats. Corporal Hargrove didn't act because it was expected. He acted because it was right. In a world full of noise, he noticed a single tear, and that made all the difference. So here's the question for you watching at home. If you were there, would you have seen that tear? Would you have done something? Drop your answer in the comments. On a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate this story? Not just for what happened, but for what it reminded us all. If this story moved you, hit like. If you believe in honor, discipline, and instinct, subscribe and turn on notifications. And please share this video with someone who still believes that doing the right thing doesn't need permission. Because sometimes all it takes is one look. On brave soul willing to break the silence.